So, the conversation around Leeds United's management has never really stopped for a long, long time now. Ever since Daniel Farke came in, people have been saying, well, is he going to be good enough for the next step? So, for example, in the Championship, everyone was saying, is he going to get us promoted? When we were promoted, everyone was saying, is he going to be good enough to keep us in the Premier League? And now we are cycling back around to the Daniel Farke conversation. This time, though, his future at Leeds United sort of hangs in the balance because the club have a very, very big decision to make in not too long. So in this video I'm going to talk about what that decision is, what the time frame is for that decision to be made, as has been discussed by Baron Cross in his recent piece. And ultimately I'm going to sort of weigh up the pros and cons of Daniel Farke and sort of get an idea of where we might land on it. So first off, obviously, as I just mentioned, this is based on a piece from Baron Cross in The Athletic, and it sort of covered the fact that Daniel Farke's contract is going to have a decision made at some point relatively soon. At the moment, he has a contract that runs until 2027, which is another year or so. If it was a player that we were talking about, you'd be saying, well, let's renew that right away because you don't want to lose him on a free. Not quite how managers work because you don't really do manager transfers. But anyway, the 49ers and Daniel Farke reportedly have a little bit of an understanding between them that a decision will be made in the summer on what happens with his contract, which is pretty big. If you're Daniel Farke right now, you're looking at having a year left on your contract and going, that's not really what I like to call job security. Then again, if you're the club and you're looking at Daniel Farke's contract and you're saying there's a year left on that, you're also potentially thinking, well, he's done reasonably well for us. We don't want him to get poached. But at the same time, the club have had some odd decision points in the past. So, for example, after the very first season with Daniel Farke at the club, there was a lot of conversation around, well, realistically, is Daniel Farke the guy to keep us up or take us up? Because we've just lost a playoff final to Southampton, and yeah, sure, we got a lot of points. We got 90 points in that season, which is pretty damn good. But the goal was promotion, and that didn't end up happening. And after all that conversation, it turns out that he stayed at the club, signed a few more players, sold a few players, and had another shot at it. And that shot led to 100 points, it led to winning the league, and it ultimately led to promotion, which is absolutely fantastic. But there was conversation last summer surrounding Daniel Farke and what his future was going to be at the club, with a lot of people saying, well, we saw what happened at Norwich, he just got relegated right away again. Is he necessarily the guy to keep us up if we end up keeping him? Which, honestly, at the time, fair conversation to have, because if we were talking side before self, the side staying up is more important than, but we gave Daniel Farke another shot. In my opinion, at that point, I felt it would have been very, very harsh to get rid of him because he would have just done his job. But I could see both arguments, and now we get to the most recent of these decision points, which was the slump back in November. I will be completely honest, I've not said this in a video yet, but prior to that match against Man City, when the big tactical change was made, I had already made a thumbnail, a script, and a title for a video in the event that Daniel Farke were to leave. I was ready for that. Like, it felt like it was on the horizon. Not just on the horizon, it felt like it was round the corner. But it ended up not happening. Hello, Iris. Not right now. And then we get to the current decision point, which is the fact that we've got a couple of weeks, realistically, before the club need to make a choice as to whether they keep Daniel Farke for next season and then going forwards after that. And as a result, we need to sort of look at the pros and cons of keeping him, because at the end of the day, that's the decision that's going to be made. So the first of the pros is, let's be honest, every single step of the way, Daniel Farke has achieved his goals. He was initially signed by the club in order to get us out of the Championship and back into the Premier League, and that happened. Like, during the initial signing period, he came in and in his first interview said, this isn't going to be an immediate thing. The plan is promotion in the next 2 years, which in the end happened. We all thought it was going to happen in the first year, ended up coming third. Didn't get promoted in the first season, which is a little bit of a shame, but season 2, it worked out. It was completely fine. The cat is not leaving, which is a little bit of a nightmare because I'm trying to concentrate whilst not showing the baby off on the video because I made this a rule to myself. Anyway, but then on the other hand, this is going to be completely new territory for Daniel Farke. He's never been in a side that is not only in the Premier League but has survived and is pushing on to aim for mid-table, to aim for Europe, to aim beyond that, which means that we're in slightly murky waters. And in addition to that, we also potentially have some sort of player attraction issues. People have discussed this in the past as well, where if a player is looking at the Premier League, they might think, well, cool, there's plenty of clubs here. Why am I going to go to the one managed by Daniel Farke? Which is fine, I guess. Like, Marcelo Bielsa had an attraction to him that a lot of people wanted to play for us because they'd be playing for him. But that's not realistically the world that most of the Premier League managers work in. The world that most Premier League managers are working in is the league is the attraction, and that is completely normal. And if we do have a look at the way that transfers have gone for Daniel Farke, he's sort of Iris, please. He's sort of been like under-resourced for his entire time in the Premier League. Like, people came out of the transfer window saying, well, why didn't we sign a number 10 when we very, very obviously needed a number 10? But those same people were saying, why are we consistently struggling and hanging around the relegation zone? Either you put it on Daniel Farke for his management not being up to snuff, or you put it on the 49ers for not giving him the tools. In my opinion, after this coming transfer window, those tools will be there. You'll have the squad as it is now, which is a very, very good squad, and then additions where they're needed. I can imagine signing a 10, I can see us buying a striker, and ultimately that's going to put us in the right sort of direction. Another positive is the character of the squad right now is really good. That sort of very intense, the way I phrase it is the no dickhead rule, which is an idea that you're signing players, but you're signing players that are good characters as well as good footballers, which means that going forward, you're ultimately going to end up with a dressing room of people that like each other and want to play for each other, which I think we've got right now. Like, that pulling that match back against Chelsea is one example where it looks like we're going to drop points, end up with a draw. Very, very nice. The match against West Ham. Other versions of Leeds United lose that, and we all know this. We all saw it coming in the match itself. We're like, right, okay, cool. So it's extra time. Either we lose in extra time or we lose on penalties. And we got through that. And I think the squad character is a big part of us getting through all of that. And the other fairly minor negative to keeping Daniel Farke is if we do end up sacking him, it might cost a bit more because he'll have a little bit more of a sort of long contract with us, and that sort of duration is going to mean that any sort of payoff would have to be bigger. But for me, it feels like a no-brainer. Daniel Farke has done the job at every single crossroads. Every single time he's done what's been asked of him, and we've benefited as a result. And I think we're at the stage where the people that are now still ardently anti-Daniel Farke and saying that we need to get him out are just those that are never going to change that opinion. Got us promoted. That was his job. Keeping us in the Premier League, which he will have done. That's his job. An FA Cup semi-final is a bonus on top of that, and we could go even further. It just makes sense. So whilst Daniel Farke's future at Leeds United might currently hang in the balance and there is a decision to be made, for me that decision only goes one way. But, as always, that's just my opinion. Let me know what yours is in the comments down below. That'd be massively appreciated. You could pop a like on the video as well. Subscribe, that's also pretty cool of you. You can be a channel member. You get videos like this one fairly early. And I'm going to leave that there because I have a baby to feed and a cat to get to chill out somehow. I don't know how, but I'll find a way. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I will see you. You're really proving the point. I will see you later. Toodaloo.